on average, just in the United States, about 220 people die every single day from an opiate overdose. By the time we finish this show, 8 to 10 people are going to die from an opiate overdose. If we get even one person, one viewer with this program that we might be able to help with some of the information that's shared on here, then it's all worth it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dare Me podcast. Peace, it's your old pal Glenn Victor. So excited for episode 31 of the Dare Me podcast. Hard to believe we've been doing it. I know I say that almost every week anymore. It literally is hard to believe that we're into episode 31 and that we've done that many episodes of this show. Time just goes by so quick. We've got a special show lined up for you tonight. We've got a great guest, that boy Connor McAulay. He is a really talented hip hop artist and rapper, musician. Man, you're gonna dig this show if you're into music. Really a great artist and just a great all around person. And he'll be coming up on the show in just a little bit. We're going to have him on the phone line, and then we're going to show a bunch of slides, play some clips of his music, take a little bit of a deep dive into his catalog, talk to him about living clean and sober and being a mental health advocate, things to that nature. So it's going to be a lot of fun talking with him. Right now, though, we want to bring in live from the East Coast in Orlando, Florida, our co-host and producer, that boy Dean Baker, standing by. How's it going in Orlando tonight, Dean?
Good evening, Glenn. Happy October. I don't know what the weather's like out there, but the weather is getting so sweet here. It's cooling down and it's not so crazy heated out there.
Yeah, well, I should mention I'm coming live from Sacramento, California, here on the West Coast, where it's 6 o'clock, and Dean, of course, all the way over on the other side of the country on the East Coast in Orlando. And yeah, for those that, are regular viewers or listeners to the show, you know that I lived in Central Florida in Orlando, where Dean is for 30 years. And so, yeah, Dean, I
Until
am
we kicked you
familiar.
out.
Yeah, it kicked me out. I moved out here to Sacramento to be near my daughter, who I had dinner with this past week, which was so awesome. If you see this, sweetheart, I had so much fun, and always so great to be able to spend time together. Just never seems like you can spend enough time with people you love. Everybody's got their lives and they're busy and everything like that. And anyhow, yeah, man, I am into my second fall living here in Northern California. I moved out here a little over a year ago. In fact, last week's show was what we called the California Versary edition of the Dare Me podcast because it marked one full year of me living here in this area. And it's still pretty warm, definitely nice weather. Um, it's cooling off just a little bit. But Dean, I do know exactly what you mean. This time of year in Orlando, the humidity starts to lift. And for about the next 5, 6 months, it's beautiful there in that area. So anyway, sounds like the phone was ringing there, Dean.
Hey there.
Do we have our friend Mack on the line? Okay, well, Mack, if you're listening, stand by, bro. We're going to get to you in just a second. Before we do, though, just always like to do a little bit of an introduction to what the Dare Me podcast is all about. Just in case we have any brand new viewers, brand new listeners who maybe stumbled across our show, we are in fact live right now. We're live on 4 different Facebook pages, 4 different YouTube channels. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on X, which of course used to be Twitter. We're live on Threads, all the things. And of course, we post the recorded version of the show after we're done, and then it's there forever. We always try to guide people to the Dare Me podcast YouTube channel. That's where all the episodes of the show are listed in chronological order there. And it's not real cluttered. We do have some reels and some shorts on there to help market and promote the show. But if you do happen to go watch any of the previous recorded episodes, or maybe you don't catch the whole show tonight live and you want to go back and watch it later, we always appreciate it if you just click subscribe, because that helps us with the algorithms and getting the show out there to more people. Which brings me to, again, what the point of this show is. Our hope is that we do get new viewers and listeners who may be struggling with substance abuse disorder, addiction, whatever you want to call it, and are looking for information about how to get out of the grips of that madness, just like I was. I became hopelessly addicted to opioids and opiate pain medication. And I went on a 9 year run with that stuff, y'all. So grateful to be able to say I've been completely clean and sober now for over 2.5 years. But it wasn't easy. Oh my gosh. Getting off them opiates was the worst thing I've ever been through in my life. And I've told my story in great detail on this podcast many times. So if you'd like to hear the whole story, you go back and look through previous episodes. We have titles for them all, so you'd be able to figure it out. And I talk about it as we go, and I'm sure I'll talk more about it as we move forward, and have told my whole story. I have a long history with addiction. Started as a young guy in my teenage years, partying, getting high, like all the kids that I knew in my circle did. And then I got clean for the first time just shy of 25 years old. I stayed clean and sober for almost 17 years, y'all. Had a bad relapse. It lasted about 5 years. Got clean again. Been through the treatment center process, rehab, whatever you want to call it. Stayed clean again for 6 years. And then I broke my ankle and I got sick too. And they prescribed opiate pain medication. And I knew better. I never should have took no narcs with my history with addiction, but I did. And I got hooked because that shit works until it doesn't anymore. It turns on you, which is what happened to me. And for people like me, because it ain't for everybody, but for people like me, I became addicted to it and I took more and more and more and more and more. And I had to keep taking more for it to even work the way it did in the beginning. Then eventually I just had to take it to feel normal. And if I didn't, I got sick, dope sick, because you do become physically dependent on it. So, anyway, the whole long story of that leads me to the point that I was looking for information online, how to get clean. I was Googling things, looking on YouTube, and I came across a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there we've talked about many times on this show. But there's nothing like what we're doing with this podcast. And that's when I thought, man, if I could ever get clean, I'd love to do a podcast, see if we might be able to help some people, go live, do a talk show, have guests, things to that nature. And so we came up with the name Dare Me, which means a lot of different things. First of all, I was like, dare me to put myself out there, get vulnerable the way I do on this show, and talk about addiction, because there is still that stigma attached to it. Oh, God, we don't talk about that. Oh, man, he's a druggie, whatever. It's a legit sickness. Substance abuse disorder is kind of the buzz phrase now. And then we took that name and made these hashtags that we just put up on the top of the screen. Dean, thanks for putting those up there. And we use these acronyms for the name Dare Me: drugs, addiction, recovery, because we talk about those topics on this show. Of course, talked about all three of those already. And we talk about enlightenment. We've had full episodes where we talk about enlightenment, spirituality, things to that nature that help bring peace, so that people don't get a case of what we call the buckets and just go out and get high and say, screw this. You know what I mean? You got to maintain your peace. And then we talk about music, which we're going to do a deep dive into tonight, because it's been so instrumental in my life and helping me to live and stay clean. And we also talk a lot about exercise and fitness. I'm in the best shape I've been in, God, since I was a kid. Just a couple of episodes ago, we did a whole episode talking about exercise and fitness and how that's such an important part of recovery. So you get the idea, y'all. We kind of run the full gamut of those topics on this show. And that is what the show is all about. And we do jump around from topic to topic on those different things and those hashtags. And sometimes we talk about all of them in one show, sometimes we focus on one or the other. And tonight, I'm so happy to tell you that we're going to focus in on the topic of music. Now, we'll also touch on some of the opioid crisis news stories like we do every show a little bit later. That'll be on the back end of the show. We'll talk about a couple of current events, some shout outs, and then we also try to wrap the show up with little humor. We have a couple of funny memes at the end. And I got to send a quick shout out to all my friends from Detroit City, which is my hometown. I grew up in Detroit and lived there till I was 29 years old. And if you know what I'm talking about, y'all, the Detroit Lions won today. The football team beat the Tampa Bay Bucks, and we got a little something fun we're going to do at the end of the show for all our Detroit fans, because we do have a lot of people from Michigan that watch this show. So, with all that said, y'all, let's move into our interview, which I am so excited about, and I have been waiting for this. We have that boy, Connor McAulay, on the phone line. Are you there with us, Mac?
Yeah, I'm here, Glenn. What's up, man?
Oh, hey, well, Mac, thank you so much for being on the Dare Me podcast with us today. I just wanted to do a little bit of an intro about how I learned about your music and how we met. And we were talking a little
Okay.
bit about this off the air today. Anybody who's a regular viewer or listener to our podcast knows that I'm a huge fan of this guy, Kasky, who is such a talented hip hop artist, musician. And he's so versatile. It's not just hip hop, man. He does some cool acoustic stuff that I love. One of them I actually covered and put it out there. And, anyways, him and one of his producers, this guy, Marlon Sorrentino, he goes by the stage name Anonymous, put on this event that I've talked about on this show many times. It was last December and it was called the Future of Artists Summit. And there I am with a couple of guys that I went with, that boy Neela and that boy YHB, Young and Heartbroken. Those are my friends, Shabang and Brendan. And of course, there we are with Kasky, who was so cool at this Future of Artists Summit. We got to spend quite a bit of time with him and kind of sort of became buddies. And actually, Kasky said he was going to be on this podcast one time. So, I got to just try to tie him down. He's been on tour with Yellow Wolf and Jelly Roll and doing all the
hmm
things lately. So hopefully we can get him on the podcast soon. But in any case, we have a chat group of artists, musicians that attended the Future of Artists Summit. And there's also people in there in the chat group who weren't able to make the summit, but are friends, colleagues of Kasky, Anonymous, artists, the whole thing. And that is how I met Mac, how we, started to communicate. And Mac,
hmm
I first, you got my attention when I saw this slide right here posted in the chat group about sober artists of Arizona. And that's when I started doing a little bit of a deep dive into your stuff and learning about your music, and that you are an advocate for clean and sober living and mental health and things to that nature. And that's when my mind started going, I got to see if I can get this guy to be on the show. So I know that was a long introduction, Mac, but I just can't thank you enough for being on with us today, man. Tell us a little bit about this Sober Artists of Arizona group. What's that all about?
So actually, it's a funny story. The way that I got connected with this event that's coming up here soon is so when I first moved out here to Arizona earlier this year, I got connected immediately with the music scene. So shout out Respect Underground,
Yeah.
Icon Radio, Justice, Meredith Underground, Diamond, everyone down there. They all got me tied into the Hip Hop Fest. And while I was doing my interview with Diamond, she was blown away by my message about how it's to me it's about self-care. It's about being able to look in the mirror and being able to love yourself, because if you think about it, a lot of addiction stems from, a lot of mental health stems from lack of self-love, lack of self-care, or not being able to do that or not knowing how to do that. So to be able to to be able to look in the mirror and find yourself was the biggest thing. And she was really blown away by that. And she's like, okay, well, I don't meet many artists like you. So she invited me to be a part of the sober community out here as an artist, where I performed down at, I believe it was, it was a, it was like a, it was a dinner, a mysterious, pardon me, mysterious dinner for the sober community downtown Phoenix. And I was the main event down there, and it was just really cool to be down there and be a part of that. So she tied me in with my friend, a guy named Blake, who we're now pretty good friends, and he's holding an album release party coming up. Actually, this upcoming Friday, where it's going to be all about sobriety. It's all about chasing your dream. Which, I mean, if anybody knows me, that's what I'm about, and that's everything I stand for.
Is that the
So
slide
that's how.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, bro, but I just put up the slide, the Sober House release party. Is that the one you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about? Yeah, awesome.
Yep. Yep, that's his release party. And so as soon as he got onto my music, Diamond gave me his information. I reached out. We talked a little bit here and there, and he definitely wanted to, put me on the show. And he just got done streaming the album too not long ago, and I've got nothing but really good feedback from what this album has brought out, which, to be honest, has brought a lot out of me as well. I've been able to deal with a lot of demons that I've kept hidden away for a long time, or things that I just felt weren't important. But when they come knocking at the door, it's either you ignore it or you handle it face to face. And my whole life has been about running from my problems, and so finally being able to tackle them face to face, and being able to stand firm in my shoes, and have confidence that whatever it is I'm facing, I can get over. That's kind of what this movement, which I'm sure you've seen, the Here to Stay, is my movement. That's what it's all about. It's we're not going to bend for anything. We're not going to pull for anything. And there's going to be bumps along the road, man. But the thing is, we have to understand is it's not about how many times, like what Rocky says, not how many times you get hit, so how many times you get hit and get right back up. You know what I
Say
mean?
that. I love it, man. Well, hey, you have just recently put out this album compilation, The Lost Poet, which we're going to be playing some
Yep.
clips from in just a short little while for all our viewers and listeners. So, y'all hang tough for that, because you're definitely going to want to hear some of this stuff. But this is not your first release. You've been doing music for a while now, bro. Tell us a little bit about your history with doing music and how you got started and all.
So it does feel like it's been a while, to be honest. But I mean, 3 years is such a short time to to be fully delved into something. You know what I mean? Like I got into music as soon as I got off the streets, because I was homeless on the streets for several years after my military service. Where I was an adrenaline junkie in the military.
And
So
thank you
of
for your
course
service,
I
by the way. You served in the Army
I
for,
appreciate that.
was it 9 years, bro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
man.
9 years in the infantry. So, but I got out. I got out. It was a pretty bad mental health dip I took. I ended up falling into some things that that led from me being what I thought was an upright soldier, and had everything going for me, to all of a sudden now I'm facing the streets. I'm talking Colorado Springs in the middle of wintertime with
Right.
no big coat, and just
Wow.
I'm talking. It was like I was put to the test. And there was many a times that I wanted to cave. And during those times while I was homeless, because I mean, I had burned every bridge, man. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I manipulated whatever way I could to get any kind of money so I could get my score. Like, I mean, it was just a
Oh,
bad
yeah.
nightmare of a lifestyle that I lived. And the biggest problem was that I didn't care. The biggest problem was that I was trying to seal the envelope, and there was no, and I didn't understand what's my purpose. If there's no military, then what's my purpose? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was really drawn to hip hop. I was really drawn to the instrumentals while I was on the streets. I would listen to them in my headphones with this track phone I had that didn't have any service. But
Right.
there's a few times that I'd be listening to it, and I'd just be just like kind of freestyling a little bit. I've never been a freestyle. I never rapped, dude. Like, I haven't done this ever in my life.
Right.
And then
Right.
I started freestyling here and there, and then eventually, when I finally decided to get clean after a pretty bad spill on a heroin overdose, that
Yeah.
that I was kind of woken up inside to this is serious. This needs to
Yeah.
stop. You know what I mean? Went to rehab, got clean, came out, and I started actually pursuing a dream, whatever it was. I didn't know what it was at the time, but
Right. Right.
just writing my thoughts out, man, writing my thoughts and anything that came to mind, which was feelings, and not being afraid to embrace those feelings, and finding out that I was able to write them in sort of a poem style writing. You know what I mean? Like, make it so it's not just like a boring book. It's like it's
Yeah.
a fun poem, and then it's bouncy, it's emotional. and I had some friends who were hip hop artists, and I decided in the studio one time, you mind if I, read this over, a beat? And immediately they were like, you need to get in there and record. And so I
Wow.
did. And my first song, "Save Me Someday," was the very first song. Well, it's not even a rap song. It's actually more of I don't even know what to call it. It's I'm giving my cry out to myself, just basically asking to save me before it gets too late. And yeah,
Right.
so "Save Me Someday" was the very first song I ever did, and then it's just been put on the gas ever since, man. I've gone on tour with Twista back in 2021. We had the opportunity to shout out my boys Troy Good and Hayes.
Yeah.
We were able to get on tour with him, do a couple cities, and it's things
And
that I
you
didn't think I'd ever be able to do. Like, yeah, go ahead.
you did some stuff with Cass too, right? With
So we're
Cass.
working on a couple things right now. Yeah, I first met him at the Black Sheep in Colorado Springs, and we talked after the show for just a quick second, and after that we just developed a friendship because I remember I'd sent him a message on Instagram one day when I was just like, hey man, just a little bit. I'm just I was in a very motivated time in my life where I was sending out motivational quotes to people. I was sending out just
Yeah.
little things to hype people up and just get them sort of motivated for the day. The whole big bro mentality,
Yeah.
and so one of the things that stuck with me was, hey, try to focus today on responding instead of reacting. Because if you can respond, then you're collected. If you're
Mm.
reacting, you're doing it out of emotion. And he responded back with a voice message going, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that, bro. I appreciate that. And
Wow.
then after that, we just kicked it off where anytime he came to Denver or Colorado, Fort Collins, when he was on tour, like him and his producer Tasty would hit me up and say, hey, man, we're about to be in town. And I would go, whether I could attend the show or not because I was working, or whether I was able to stay for the show. We kicked it and hung out and just, picked at each other's minds and just spent time together. It's humans, not as an
Yeah.
artist, but just as people. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. What a
he's definitely
cool
a big inspiration of mine.
story. Yeah, I just love the guy, man. I've met Kasky a few times and of course got to know him a little better at the summit. And
Yeah.
it's like even like I told you a little bit before the show, bro. I get starstruck sometimes real easy, and it's like I always feel
Right.
starstruck around the guy because like I told him once, his music literally has helped save my life. When he put out that compilation, This Isn't Even My Final Form, it just blew my mind.
Oh, I love
Songs
that.
like
Yeah,
Rock
that album
Bottom,
was
Sinner
amazing.
Like Me. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, man. And the way he just turned
Yep.
his life around, getting clean and stuff, to this day, it's so motivational to me. And now that I've heard your stuff, it's the same thing. That's why it's like an honor for me to have you on the show and talk to you, bro, because your music is so inspirational and so powerful. So thank you for what you're doing, man. I mean that sincerely, bro.
No, thank you, Glenn. I really appreciate the love. Like I will never take for granted anybody that not only takes time to listen to my journey, or even come to a show, or even just to take time out of their day to tell me what it's done for them. You know what I mean? Because this is what I live every single day. I've lived a very, very interesting life up to this point, and
Yeah.
we all have our walk. We all have our things that don't define us, but they shape us to being who we are today. That's all a choice that
Yeah.
we make. But it's just I'm very, very it's a very humble process. You know what I mean? Like I felt like if I would have started making music in my 20s instead of the military, especially with how stubborn I was, I probably would have overdid it on the drugs and died, or I would have went to jail or prison
Yeah.
and spent there have been a lot of dumb things. So being a more matured 33-year-old artist who's just coming into the scene now, but I have a good head on my shoulders with experience now. You know what I mean? I may be new to the music, but I'm not new to this life thing, and so that's where I bring a whole different. I guess some have called it a whole different genre to the music scene too, because
It
it's
is,
rap, but it's not rap.
bro.
It's like, yeah,
I'm glad you said that, and I don't mean keep interrupt, but you do have a unique style, and I love it, man. It truly is unique. Obviously it's the hip hop genre, rapping, but it's unique, bro. And I've got to tell you, man, who doesn't love a comeback story? 9 years of serving our
right.
country in the military, in the army, and then, like you shared openly with us, bro, falling on hard times, but picking yourself up. And let me show this next slide where now you are going to be one of the featured artists at the 10th annual Arizona Hip Hop Festival, bro. So, like I said, man, I'm a little starstruck talking to you. Tell us a little bit about this event and what's your involvement with this thing coming up.
So this is the same thing that had to do with the whole. organization of Respect the Underground. It's one of the bigger hip hop festivals that they run around all year long. They have different events going on, and I was the first one I tied into it, the Tempe Hip Hop Fest at Aura Nightclub. So I was able to, dip back into this one again. And so this is just it's a 2-day event downtown in Phoenix. So if
Mhm.
anyone's in the area or wants to come on down, like I'll have tickets. And for me personally, this is just what I do with my time and my music. Is I share my journey without feeling like there needs to be a dollar sign. So if anyone is in Arizona that wants to come to the show, just let me know and I'll give you a ticket. I usually buy mine out, right, and then I'll just hand them out because if there's anything that I've realized, that not just in the music scene but in life in general, people let that dollar sign control them too much to the point to
Yeah.
where they'll allow it to determine family. They'll allow it to determine
Oh
how they
yeah.
view people. And yeah, I
Changes.
get it. There's
Yeah.
there's principles around it, but if you can lose your love for how much is in that account and put more love into the difference you can make by helping someone, or even if someone you don't even know, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I just have a different perspective on life ever
Like
since I've
a
kind of come
like
back
a
from that
pay it
blackout.
forward kind of mentality. I get it, bro. That's all. Well, hey, man,
Exactly.
I may just be one of them people if I can make it out there that
Hey,
weekend because I'd love to meet you in
come
person,
on
man. That
down.
might be a great opportunity to do so,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about your Lost Poet compilation. And then I'm also going to show some slides from your previous stuff. But this whole thing, man, I got to tell you, I did a deep dive. I go to the gym all the time, and I live in that place, it seems like. It's a good thing. But, man, in between reps, I'm always playing with the playlist and whatnot. And I literally let
Hmm.
this thing ride last night. And one thing that blows my mind is you have 19 freaking songs on this thing, man. That is awesome, because a lot of times people put out EPs or albums or whatever. Maybe they got 10 tracks, maybe a dozen. 19 songs, bro. So, man, you sure get your bang for your buck talking about money on this one, man. And oh my God, I'm just being honest with you, Mac. There were a couple tunes on there where the lyrics hit so hard I had to like look around because I was getting self-conscious. It was anybody looking at me because I got filled up. I'm just like, man, it hit me so hard. The tune Finding Me and the basement, which I have stories about, and then Sober. We're gonna play clips from all those in a second here, but tell us a little bit, if you would, about the Lost Poet compilation. What was your inspiration and just whatever information you can share with us about it because it's awesome, man. I love it.
Absolutely. So I believe that everything had led up to this point. If I'm gonna be honest, the very beginning of my music career, like I said, I felt like more of a poet than a rapper.
Right.
I use a different terminology. I don't cuss my music. I don't talk about things other artists talk about. I mean, I just talk about me, and I talk about what I've been through, and it's in a perspective, whether it's inward or outward. Mainly inward, but then I'll also recap it with some outward perspective on just how I'm viewing things on the outside. Just keeping it 100% in my own lane. I can't. I don't know any other way to be. So the Lost Poet had to do with my entire life. I felt like I was lost. You know what I mean? Born and
Yeah.
raised in Hawaii, so I
Oh,
was
wow.
only one of the few white people in my school, in
Right,
King
right.
Kamehameha's hometown, in Kohala. So it was far few in between. Did you see white people there? So I grew up being the minority. I grew up being the
Yeah.
outcast. You know what I mean? The person that didn't belong.
Sure.
And just kind of a rough childhood coming up. But I played victim to it a lot, to the point to where I ended up using that as an identity when I became an adult, where I felt like everything was happening to me rather than happening around me, and I was just a part of
Mm,
the mix. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah.
the Lost Poet is I've always been a good, sincere person at heart, but I did play my cards differently when I became an adult. So the Lost Poet has become this it's almost like a movie, like the way that I've designed this album, because I've been structuring it over the course of the last year and a half, but I just started putting tracks together actually at the beginning of this year in January. I started it, and then I just, whenever I'm getting album mode, Glenn, I go all in. Like, and I mean,
Yeah.
me, my features. The entire album was produced by Trunks as well, so shout out Trunks.
Right, right, right.
Um, he's
Locked
the
in the
cinematic
studio
music.
in that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up addressing this entire list of things from like the very beginning. We're talking about reminders. Like the reminders is where I have to remind myself that this is the path I chose to walk on. Whether it be the
Wow.
right one or whether it be the one that's indifferent. This is my path, and so I need to stay humble on it. I need to just stay pressed into it. And then of course the songs that keep going. You talked about the basement. The basement was a fun song because it actually didn't. It wasn't supposed to sound like how uppity it was. It's supposed to be more like when I came up with the idea for the basement before I got the beat for it, it was supposed to be something about sitting in the basement, and it's all how do I put this into paraphrasing? It's supposed to be a parable. Like the basement is supposed to be like where you put all your deepest, darkest thoughts that you feel like aren't heard. It's
Right,
supposed to
right,
be like
right.
where you feel you are when you are shut down or when you're not understood by people. Like that's like your basement. You know what I mean?
Well,
I also had an EP Back to the
yeah.
Attic about 2 years ago, which was about your mental space. The attic, the mental. But anyway, the Lost Poet is like I'm going to bounce all over the place. It's my ADHD. So
No, it's
welcome to
good,
the
bro.
welcome
I
to the
love it.
the basement was definitely a fun song to do because it more had to do with just like being proud of being able to say, you know what, like I finally just got up and I walked up out of the basement and I saw the sunlight, and I'm seeing that there's more to life than just being cooped up and feeling trapped in my own losses in life, my own obstacles.
Well,
So
Mac,
the
let me, if I may, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to interject.
no,
So
you're good.
for our regular viewers and listeners and anybody who may check out some previous stuff on this show, that song, the title sure caught my eye because I talk a lot on this podcast about how I kicked dope in my sister's basement. That's a true story, bro. I did not want to go back into rehab. I had been in rehab a few times and outpatient and all that stuff. And it's like I tried so hard getting off them pills, man, and them opiates and the whole 9 yards, bro. And I just didn't want to go back in. And so not to get into my whole story, but I had a little mini intervention done on me, and my sister invited me and asked me if I would fly from Orlando to the Detroit area where she lives and try to get clean in her house, and she has a basement, and it's a nice basement as far as basements go. I mean, it's kind of like a little apartment down there, but that is where I kicked dope, man. Them first 10 days, oh my God, bro, it's fucking miserable, pardon my French, but the point is I literally lived in her basement and I stayed there for 4 months. So for me, that song, like I said, I was listening to it working out last night, and you know how it is, man. When we hear songs and different lyrics, we kind of make it our own, and that's what it made me think of. But I appreciate you describing it the way you did, which I totally could relate to, bro. Totally. And it's great to
And
hear
also
insight on
every
that.
home I've lived in, up till recently, my whether it was renting a room or whether it was it's been in the basement. So this is
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
finally here in Arizona. I'm not in the basement, but it's
Yep.
nice. So it can be taken however it is. The song "Sober" it hit me a little harder because I actually lost one of my best friends, Michael,
Mm,
in January to his he was.
mm,
I'm not going to go into it, but he was hot shotted, and he was found dead in his hotel. So that's still
oh,
something to this day that I'm having a hard time with. That song "Dear Michael" on the album, it kind of
yeah. I
tribute to
listened
him.
to that one and I could totally relate. I got filled up on that too. And I figured that's what it was about, bro. And again, not to interrupt you, Mac, especially on such a sensitive topic, but I will say I've talked about on this show, I go to meetings. I'm a 12-step guy. I go to meetings and I can't tell you how many times. And I'm sure you've heard these stories too, bro. I'll be sitting next to or across the table from someone who's, struggling trying to get clean. And then you come back a couple days later and you hear that, they didn't make it. They went back out, got a hold of some bullshit pills laced with fentanyl, and they're dead. And it's just so heartbreaking, man. So, yeah, that tune, it definitely pulled a heartstring with me. It's powerful.
Yeah, yeah. It's being that I'm in one of the better parts of my life right now, where I know where I'm oriented, I know where I'm, what my dreams are, I know that it's not just a dream anymore, that it's a reality. I'm making these things a reality. These things are still hard to cope with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Losing him and losing another friend named Sammy.
Mm,
just a lot of unnecessary overdoses that
yeah.
and they weren't even accidental. Like they were accidental. Like they weren't even like they were messing
Yeah.
around with
Oh,
fentanyl or
yeah.
there. It was a
Yeah.
complete shock, and it's just it makes you kind of it makes you really kind of look inward at how short life really can be. And I wrote
Yes.
that song sober because not only did my friend Hannah lose her friend to overdose and several other friends,
Mm,
but I had also lost Sammy a couple days prior to her sending me that voice message, and then also Michael earlier this year. And man,
yeah.
it's just it's been it's sad. You know what I mean? There's some songs I have from the earlier times where I was really talking about just saying that I wish if I could really just explain how much I care about people, especially in addiction,
Oh, it
and just
shows,
wanting to
bro.
show them there is a way. And it ain't gonna be a pretty way. There's gonna be bumps and falls and trips and slips, but as long as you're trying, as long as you want a better life, then you'll get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't express that enough.
Well,
Um,
you know what, Mac? I want to make 2 points. You mentioned the voicemails, and we're going to be playing a clip from the song "Sober." And as you know, at the beginning of it, there is a girl that left you a voicemail. And for our viewers and
yep.
listeners, you and I chatted about it before the show. It's a legit voicemail. It's not something that was
Yep.
staged, and it's so powerful. So that's coming up. Hang on for that, folks. And then also, I just wanted to say, Mac, that, what you're talking about right now, I couldn't help but think to myself, it just reiterates what I have talked about on this program so many times, that music has been such an intricate and instrumental part of me being able to stay and live clean. I've been a music guy my whole life. I was a
Right.
DJ on the radio. I've worked in more clubs and bars than I could possibly even describe. I had mobile DJ businesses. I've owned several instruments, guitars over the years. But now, since I got clean this time, as I shared a little bit, on this show many times, I have gotten involved in music production and learning auto tune and all the plugins and all the effects. And that's one of the things that Future of Artists Summit we talked about earlier in the show has been so inspirational and instrumental to me. I met so many cool people there that just encouraged me and cheered me on to dig deep into that stuff. And I like doing a lot of covers. I got a little bit of a pen game, you know what I mean? And I'll pull some beats
Mhm.
off, the internet and put some stuff
Yeah.
out at the time. But it's just like you said, it's been such a healing process for me. And I can tell, just by listening to you, that has definitely been the case for you too. Is that correct?
Yes, it has. Music is my lifeline, and without it, I can honestly say if I didn't find where I fit in, like that
Yeah, you
that
get
that
in where
that
you
that
fit
first
in.
the first year of me getting off the streets and getting clean, it would have been a disaster if I didn't find a place for me to call my own. You know what I mean? So the music
Yeah,
has definitely been a calling for me, and no matter where I go, no matter how far I take it, because I am pressing the gas until the day I'm 6 feet. But I do know that my music is making a difference, and like that alone to
it
me is
is.
enough of a paycheck to knowing that what I'm doing here, because it's not just for me. Yes, it is for me at the end of the day, but to know that it's also reaching people and
Helping
giving
others.
them.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not
you know
just
what?
talking addiction. I'm
Wh-
talking. I'm not talking addiction. I'm talking. I had friends say that they were ready to off themselves, and they thought about me, and they heard a song from
Yeah,
mine, and they just thought, you know what, like if he can pull through this, I can pull through it too. You know what I mean? Like, and so those
absolutely.
kind of messages hit differently when you know that you're not just your message, but what you're doing to keep yourself afloat is paying it forward and helping other people stay afloat as well. And that kind of moves me differently.
Yeah, and bro, like I said, I wasn't just, sugarcoating it or just bullshitting, man. It's already helping me. I've just, really kind of, being honest, kind of got turned on to your music since we connected in that, Future of Artists chat room, man, and it's so inspirational to me. And we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into some of these songs off the Lost Poet. Like I mentioned, we'll play some clips, but I wanted to take just a few minutes if we could, Mac, to talk about some of your other releases and compilations. So here's this one that we have a slide for. DOA, Dreams Over Addiction. Talk to us about this one a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, so Dreams Over Addiction was actually the very first project I put together after I released a couple singles because I wanted to do a project. I wanted to do something because I wanted to put it all together. And that picture is actually me sitting in the same alleyway that I had slept in several times in the streets of Colorado Springs on that album. But it was just me finding my sound. When I listen back to it now, it's of course I'm gonna hear all the things that I'm like, wow, I really definitely sound like I'm getting started in the music. But the message has always been real, and the message has always
Yeah.
been very, very thorough. So the Dreams Over Addiction was me pursuing this dream that I could live a life and not feel like I was just a walking zombie who needed a fix to stay alive. You know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
album, it's just an EP, but that EP was really a big piece of my of of me finding confidence. Because I'll be honest, I wasn't confident throughout that whole EP that I was even cut out to do this, but
Right.
I was
Hey,
doing it
Mac.
because something deep
Hey,
down inside told me you need to do this.
yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I noticed, we're picking you up, but it's kind of going in and out. You got to kind of talk right into that phone because I want everybody to hear you, bro. And
Yeah, yeah,
so
I
this
apologize.
one came
I move
out
the
in
phone around a lot when I talk.
yeah, this came out. It says in February of 2021. So that's been what about 2.5 years or so ago, right? So this is a little, you
Yeah.
know, uh, little sooner or previous to the Lost Poet.
Yeah, that was the first project I dropped. And
Okay.
it was nice to finally get. I actually released it on my birthday, February 21st, in 2021, and it was
Wow.
awesome to have that release. You know what I mean? Like I've done a lot of my own designs on my album covers and stuff. I do have a couple really good, talented artists. Our friends, photographers that take pictures as well.
Yeah, I
That
love
I've
it.
used their pictures of me or their videos of me to for self promotion and all that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
that picture is very unique because that's real right there. I was sitting in that same alleyway. I went and revisited that same place that I was homeless on the streets in, shooting up in the alleyway behind those dumpsters. Like that was a very
Bro,
real for me
I
to go back
I
and
can't.
revisit.
Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't resist keep interrupting, interjecting, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing that because it's just so cool for a guy like me, and I know a lot of our viewers and listeners to hear kind of like the inside story, because you look at a picture like this, and there's so much more to it based on what you just described to us, and it makes it just I
Yeah,
just feel a deeper connection to it now. So thanks for sharing that
yeah.
insight with us. Let's talk about this compilation, Back to the Attic, because you talked a little bit about the attic earlier. Tell us about this one, bro.
So what I've done most of my life is suppress a lot of the things that I've either didn't want to remember, trauma, name calling, getting beat up, bullied, all that kind of stuff. So that all became what I call baggage. It's like baggage you put in the attic. Like if you have too much stuff in your house, you don't want to like get rid of it necessarily, but or you can't get rid of it, and you put it in the attic, right? And you forget about it. It's not even there.
Yeah.
No one knows it's there when they come over because it's in the attic. Same thing with your mental health and your past and your baggage. So I decided to revisit some of those old thoughts to try to process them and to handle them like face to face. And a lot of the songs in there are about, it's a lot more gloomy. It's a lot more, daunting. It has a lot of, cinematic, like theatrics, orchestra style beats in it, but it's all about just going back and not necessarily to go back and feel sorry for myself, but to go back and conquer the part of me that had held me captive for so long. That blackout of my
Yeah.
childhood and young adulthood that I tried to not remember. You know what I mean? So that's Back to the Attic.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, bro, and for our viewers and listeners, I just can't encourage y'all enough to go and check out Mack's stuff. I went on the YouTube channel, bro, and I just was digging through it all. And it was a real challenge for me to, not just fill this show up with all your different music. We got like 4 different clips coming up off the newest release, The Lost Poet, but I would have, loved to have just been playing all your stuff. So I encourage all of our viewers and listeners to go check out your stuff here. So let's talk about this one, man. No One Saw Me Coming. What was this one all about?
So that's probably that was my biggest project. It was actually supposed to be The Lost Poet, as a matter of fact. That was supposed to be The Lost Poet. I was writing it last year, from April of 2022 all the way until September of 2022. I had just gone off on this burst of energy, and like I was improving on a lot of different levels of delivery, and my rhyme schemes, and my everything was just, it was elevating to a place where I felt comfortable. It wasn't like I was like
Yeah.
annoyed hearing my music. It was like, wow, I actually enjoy hearing this back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
No One Saw Me Coming was originally supposed to be The Lost Poet. I decided to rebrand it because this was more of like a look at me now kind of album. Like this is more of like
Mm.
a not like a flex, but just a, I'm proud of this because nobody would have
Yeah.
ever guessed. If you knew me when I was younger, or you knew me even a couple years back, you would have never knew that this is who I was today. This is who I am now.
Bro,
So
I
rather than it being, I was going to call it the Here to Stay album too, because that's my movement. But instead, I was just sitting there looking at the album art, and I was like, you know what? No one saw me coming. I'm holding up the one finger, like no one, not even me. I didn't even see me.
Bro,
I
I
didn't even see me
love it,
coming.
man. I totally get where you're coming from, and I get it, man. I love the humility because I get what you're saying, man. It's not about ego or the me, look at me, or being cocky or anything. It's just like even me like doing this podcast, bro. People who knew
We,
me in my previous life, my career and working in the business world, the news media and all that shit, they see me doing this. It's like they must be like, oh
hmm
my God, but it blows my mind too, but I will tell you, as we're going to
yeah,
talk about in just a short moment here, I'm proud of what we're doing with this, and that's not me being cocky, that's not ego stuff. I just feel like I was like led to do this for whatever
the
reason, not to flower it
milestones.
all
They're
up.
milestones.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey,
Like
I appreciate you sharing that story, man, and let's talk about this one, the letters, man. Tell me about this compilation.
the letters was before No One Saw Me Coming, and the letters is actually more of a personal EP. I actually wrote it while I was on tour. I was facing a very dark place in my mind again. It was almost like I was revisiting, being revisited by some old daunting memories and thoughts and things that really were not fun, like the echo in my head, the voice in my head trying to tear me down. Like we were on tour with Twista, me, Troy, and my boy Hayes. We were
Right,
on
right.
tour. We're all the way out, and we came all the way out to Arizona on tour. And then on our way back, it was such a just a eye opener to like what the music business is all about. And I was facing a lot of problems with myself at that time. That I had a little bit of a relapse on. I was doing some cocaine, and then I ended up feeling like I was getting consumed again into something, and I was actually, the letters came from me feeling like, if this is it, if this is where this is as far as I go, I want to at least put out one last project before the end of the year, because like I
Mm,
honestly, it felt like my demons were going to get the best of me before the new year of 2022,
yeah.
and I
Wow.
released it on I released it on December 31st, 2021, and I'm still here to see another day. But I mean, it was that dark. I just wanted to put out
Wow,
something that
bro, that is
let
such a
rip.
powerful story because I'll tell you, as I've shared openly on this show, even tonight, that relapse is a part of my story and so
Mhm.
many others that I've met in this recovery journey of living clean and sober. Sometimes we don't like to talk about it and gets pushed under the rug or whatever, man, but I know exactly what you're talking about. There's this bond with those of us that live clean and sober that I just don't think anybody who never been through it can understand, because you get to that dark place that you just described, man, where you start thinking, damn, I need to get my affairs in order because I ain't living right and I might not live to see another day. So that was a very powerful story, bro, and I appreciate you sharing that. So again, for all our viewers and listeners, I can't tell you enough, man. Just go take a deep dive into Mack's stuff and check this one out, the letters. So now what I'd like to do, Mack, is I'd like to ask you to indulge me on what I'm going to do now. I just can't thank you enough for being so vulnerable and putting yourself out there and helping to break down the barriers of this whole stigma that seems to be attached still to mental health. Excuse me, y'all, and this whole substance abuse disorder and topic of addiction. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier on this show, I, many times, even now, get insecure. I mentioned I had dinner with my daughter this past week, and I was even talking to her about my insecurities and just like wanting to make sure we were good, in our relationship. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
I don't communicate with both of my kids even half as much as I'd like to, and then my mind starts playing tricks on me, like, oh my God, did I say something or do something that might have rubbed them the wrong way, or oh my God, am I putting myself out there too much on this podcast and they're trying to put more distance between me and themselves or whatever? And, it was like, no, bro, I'm just like busy, man. I work, I'm tired after work. I just want to go home,
Yeah.
that whole kind of thing. But the point I'm making is, I get insecure in my own mental health and things to that nature. And I start to question myself about what I'm doing and being so vulnerable, putting myself out there with this podcast. And then, just like you are with your music and telling your story with us today. And then what happens is kind of like what you said, man. You get a voicemail from someone, you get a DM from someone. You told that story even about Cass, and I'm going to show a couple things now, y'all, and I wanted to put it out there that I did clear this with the person that sent me the DM I'm about to show you. Now, I'm not going to share the person's name or the person they reference, but oh, and by the way, there's the cover for a Lost Poet album that we're going to play some clips from in a second here. But here's a DM, Mac, that I got, and this was just like 2 weeks ago. And you can see it says, I hate to read to y'all, but it's powerful. It says, "Hi Glenn, I hope all is well." And this is a person I do know that I've known for a long, long time. "I wanted to reach out to you to see if you could help my son." And of course his name was there. "He's going through a tough time with addiction. Please let me know if he can call you. Thank you." And so I get this and I'm like, oh my God. And so I replied, here was my reply. "Hi, sorry to hear that. It happens to the best, though. Remember, and as a parent, that it's not your fault, because parents always want to blame themselves, like, oh my God, if I would have been a better parent, they wouldn't have gone down that road." And, it truly is a sickness that anyone can develop regardless of their circumstances, as I wrote there. And then I wrote I'd be happy to talk to him and so on and so forth. And, you see the things that I wrote there. Well, then uh, I get this reply, and oh my God, I'm trying not to get emotional talking about it, y'all, because she says, "Thank you so much, Glenn. Yes, he's ready. He's ready to go into rehab within a few days. He unfortunately has back issues, and like so many people, abused hydrocodone, which are like Vicodins, opiate, opioid pain medication. He's also taking Adderall, which he also wants to get off of. He's in major depression as well, wants off this train so he can get his life back." And then here's where, it plays into this whole thing of me feeling vulnerable and insecure about putting myself out there the way I have on social media. I start some days, Mac, I'll think to myself, oh my God, what have I done? But then I get a message where a person says, "I follow you on Facebook and I'm so envious of your journey," which, hey, don't be envious of me, y'all. But man, did that hit me hard. And it said, "I told him you'd be a great person to talk to. This means the world to me." This person says to me, "Glenn, I will give him your number and hopefully he can listen to others encouraging and supporting him, and that he's not alone." And again, oh my God, y'all, I'm trying not to get filled up. And then I get this message. Because I did talk to the person and we had a great conversation, and he did go into rehab where he is right now. And I got this message that said, "I just wanted to thank you again for talking with him. He said you really helped him." Hmm, man. And he checked himself in last
Awesome.
night, and I pray it works out for him. Take care. So, Mac, I appreciate you bearing with me and indulging me as I read through those DMs, bro, because I do feel self-conscious sometimes, about putting myself out there this way and telling my story. And like I said, sometimes people from a previous life or my career thinking, "Oh my God, what happened with Glenn? Oh Jesus Christ," or whatever. But I just feel like, not to flower it up, man, like I've said on the show many times, I just feel like I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm just like, I was led to do this, man. And I get messages like that, and there ain't no stopping me now, bro. It's like, as Dean put together in the intro to this show, if we can help even one person with what we're doing on this program to stay alive even one day longer, then it's all worth it. And I feel like when I get a message like this, we've already accomplished it, but I can't stop now. I just got to keep going. So, anyway, with all that said, bro, I thought that was a good segue into playing a clip from your song Sober, because at
Yeah.
the beginning of it, as we talked about, you share something quite similar. It's not a DM, but an actual voicemail that you got about you putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. So, with me going into that whole explanation, would you talk to us a little bit about that and being vulnerable? And has it affected you the way it has me, where maybe sometimes you do feel insecure, like, oh God, what have I done? And then about some of the feedback you've gotten, Mac. Can you talk to us a little bit about those things?
I'll be honest, Glenn, like there is not a day that goes by that I don't feel, those demons. Like they're always going to be there. Some days they're quieter, some days they're louder. Insecurity's always been a part of my life. It's been a passenger in my ride for a long time. And though I've been able to get a handle on the steering wheel, I still have moments. And I'm going to tell you right now, Glenn, every time I get on that stage, right before I actually go and perform, I
Right.
am I'm fighting hell and high water. Like I have
Yeah.
every nuclear mental thought going off in my brain telling me that I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna miss a word, I'm gonna miss this, miss that, yada yada. You're gonna slip, you're gonna choke, and all these
Oh,
things just are happening. I've grown up with stage fright. I don't like speaking in front of people, but it's like I check out as soon as I grab the microphone and they drop that beat and I walk out there. It's like I check out. Like I
yeah.
check out, and the part of me
Another
that is
world.
in the music comes out. And so a lot of people that I've met on my journey, whether it's in person or over the internet, through social media or through music, I've had a handful of people. I'm trying not to build up myself right now, but I've had a handful of people tell me as well that that this stuff saves them, and it gives them hope. You know what I mean? Like it gives them that extra push that it's going to be okay. And like I had no idea that this was going to be what this was going to be, man. Like I didn't know I was going to sign up for this type of weight, but I'm fine. I
Yeah.
have absolutely no problem carrying it because it's duty, and it's something that I enjoy because I finally found where I belong. So to hear these voice messages or just read these messages or to have people just even you're right, it comes to a time where you feel you're at your lowest and you're questioning your worth, that somebody reaches out and they really just give you that reminder that, hey, I appreciate you and what you're doing. And it's not like I'm not looking for it, but it comes right there, right when I need it the most. And it
Yeah.
hits right it hits right there in the point where you want to you kind of don't know what to say, and you almost feel insecure hearing it or reading it, but then and it's a warming
Yeah.
feeling. It's a reminder to wake up and get out of that stinking thinking, for the raw
Yeah.
guilt. Man,
Well,
I
yeah, I like that. I know what you mean, the stinking thinking, and that's a saying around the rooms or the program, so I can relate. Well, Mac, if it's okay with you, we're gonna go ahead now and play some of your clips, man. And
yeah.
this first one, it is for the song Sober, and it does include the voicemail that we just talked about. But if you would, after we play this, tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the song and that whole thing. But let's
Mhm.
go ahead and play this clip. And again, for our viewers and listeners, I really encourage you listen close, especially here at the beginning of this, because this is a legit voicemail that Mac incorporated into this song that comes in right out of the gate. Here we go.
I just wanted to reach out to you and tell you thank you, because with losing my friend Hannah to addiction, it means a lot to me that your music is out there, because your music has got me through that point without going back to my old ways on top of losing her like that, because that is the third person in a year I've lost to addiction. So I just wanted to basically say thank you for just being you and being great. And I'm really proud that you were clean and sober and you were being the best you could possibly be. And I am so happy to be able to watch you grow. Hashtag here to stay.
Gotta say, Getting sober wasn't easy, no way. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Looking back, how the drugs took control and consumed me. Taking all of my life from me and tossed me aside. Another junkie wanting money just to get a little high. The lowers got lower, the nights got colder and colder. Over the storm, the rain was pouring from the blackest sky. Yeah, drugs are playing for keeps, it ain't a game. Don't wanna see another overdose, no way. Got another phone call, taking me back. Knocking the wind from my chest, another friend gone. That's a wrap. Forever, mission names will always be known. To all the addicts out there suffering, just know you're not alone. Just know there's a way, why not make it today? To choose a better life together, we can finally feel that we belong. And I know this isn't easy, but I gotta get it off my chest and off my mind. You know I'm trying to fix it. Where do I belong? Where did I go wrong? Pictures on the wall. Where do I belong? Where do I belong? Tell me where do I belong?
Wow, bro. I gotta tell you, man, I fucking love that song, man. I had it on replay while I was working out, man. So talk to us about that song and then just, your inspiration for it and, whatever you want can share with us about that too, man. I love it.
I'll be honest, I don't think there's going to be a song that I'll ever put out that really does what that song did.
Yeah.
It really, like to this day, I'm never afraid to admit what I'm feeling and where I'm at. I got, little build it up right here, just listening to it back again because man, like this, I approach
Powerful.
this music stuff different, man. I'm not here because I want money. I'm not here because I want, all the things that other people are in this business for. I'm in it so I can be alive. You know what I mean? So I can, knowing that people out there need to hear about the fact that it's okay to fucking keep pressing on, to not
Well,
stop and whatever. You know what I mean? So the song was inspired by I've lost too many people recently, and especially over the course of the last few years,
yeah.
especially this year. It's just talking about how it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a move you got to make if you want a better life,
Yeah.
and to know that there's a lot that comes to that song.
Yeah. Oh, it's so powerful. And I really
I've sat
encourage
on that beat for
everybody.
2.5 years. I've sat on that beat for 2.5 years, and I could never write to it. I could never write to that beat. And finally, I heard that voicemail, and it just shot out like a cannon, and everything just came out in the paper. And I
Yeah.
don't think there's going to be much that can top that song, to be honest.
Wow. Couple things come to mind while I was just listening to you describe that, and again, bro, appreciate the insight. We mentioned that Future of Artists Music Summit that Cass and Anonymous put on, and one of the things that they really pressed there that I loved about it is they were telling all the young guys there, it's like if you're in this for the fortune and fame and the money, you're in the wrong business, man. You need to literally have a passion for it, like you clearly do, Mac. And then the message was, if you have that passion and you put your heart and soul into it, the money will come. It'll come eventually. I love Kasky. He said one time, he said, man, you want money? Go out and get you some. There's plenty of it out there. You know what I mean? But for doing the kind of art you're doing, bro, you got to have a passion for it, and you clearly do, and it shows in that song. It's deep. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
And
definitely different direction we're going with this music.
yeah, well, and another thing that I wanted to touch on, and you mentioned it, that I was reminded of there, because, bro, I'll tell you, I've been slacking a little bit lately, but I do try to record a song a day. I do all these covers. And the reason I try is because it gives me practice time working with, Logic and the different plugins and effects and different things. And, some of that stuff will never see the light of day. It's pretty rough. What I'll also say is, like you said, every now and then I'll listen back to something, man. And it's like, and it's like, I'm still working on, producing stuff and making it sound good in all platforms. So, sometimes it'll sound different in the studio and different over my earbuds and different in the car, you know what I mean? But every now and then I'll do one and it's like, whoa, I really like the way that sounds, man. That sounds pretty good. I'm kind of proud of myself. I did a good job on it. You know what I mean? But the thing of
Hey,
it
hey,
is,
Glenn.
yeah.
Hold on, one second. I believe we lost the phone call. So,
Oh, did we? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I just heard that little bleep bleep, and
Well,
it
no,
just went
I'm
out.
glad
I'm not.
you mentioned it, Dean. Hey,
Yeah, you'd have talked for
anything.
10 more minutes before I figured out I wasn't going to
Yeah.
answer you.
No, 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 no. Like we often say on this
Uh,
show, anything can happen live. And of course, when you're dealing with, technology and even something as simple as a telephone, something like
yeah.
that can happen. So I just
We'll
heard a
just
ping.
no,
Uh,
no. There's nothing going on
okay,
yet.
well,
Maybe his phone died. I don't know. So hopefully he'll realize it and then call us back, and you
well,
can pick up where you left off.
yeah. Let me ask you this: Can we just hit redial and try to call him back and see if we can get him on the
I
line?
can
Yeah,
try
let's
it.
give it a try.
Let's if it
Because
goes.
man, I was like really thoroughly enjoying the conversation and
Hello.
Yeah, so I don't know how it got disconnected. I tried calling back and it went straight to voicemail.
well,
Okay.
hey Mac, we got you back, bro, and no big deal. Shit happens, man. Like we say, anything can happen live. So anyway, so the one thing I was starting to talk about when we got disconnected there was another thing I learned at that summit is sometimes, man, you do something and you think it sucks and you put it away in the vault, as they say, and you sit on it for a while, but then you come back around and then realize, man, wow, that was actually pretty good. Or you can fine tune it. So I thought it was very interesting to hear you say you were sitting on that for a couple of years. And then when you got that voicemail, that's when it clicked in that that was the song you needed to do. That's a pretty cool story, bro.
Yeah, no, because I had heard that song. Let's see, it was back when I was first. I was actually getting beats for the Back to the Attic album, and I come across this one, and this was just so deep, and like I love that the female harmony in the background, harmonizing in the background. I was like, wow, I really enjoy this, and so I bought it right off the bat, and then I could just never write to it, and then it just sat in my folder on my laptop for a long time, and I revisited it a few times here and there, but yeah, some beats are just sitting there waiting to be pulled out, start to pull
Yeah.
out something in you, you know what I mean? And so like that's exactly what this did. Is this pulled it right out. It pulled the exact topic needed to come out.
Well,
I have a couple of songs that are definitely like that, where they were never intended to sound the way they sound, but they came out the way they did, and that's what's good. That's what.
yeah. Well, not to sound cliche, but them beats, man, it's just like a canvas waiting to be painted on, and it
Exactly.
sounds like that one was just waiting for the right time and the right inspiration. Well, hey, bro, I love the song. It's definitely my favorite on the whole Lost Poet thing. But let's go into this other one that's called The Basement that we talked about. And I
Hmm.
appreciated you describing to us, the inspiration for it and all. But let's give it a listen. We'll talk about it just a little bit more. Here's one from Mack, the Lost Poet. It's called The Basement.
Check it out. In the basement, I've been chasing a dream, searching for a placement to make the greatest statement and making a reach to plant a seed to a hand in need to the brand. Indeed, I'm here to stay. I made it through them nights. I believed I wouldn't see them better days. Here we come. Caught in the middle, I'm no Malcolm, about to show them where we head. I'm investing in the best poet to write the poem. The poet's yeah. When you take your seat, every track's about the way I'm bouncing back. All the times I felt under attack, the lesson learned I had to grasp. I got no shame, no, I don't play the best of days. So the rest of pain, to say the least, about my hatred came from when I was left in the basement. Locked in the basement, stuck in a maze, to embrace the strays. I live in the moment, starting to show the poet. It shows the remorse, so grab the oar and the floor. Stand to the boat, we gotta get going. It's set in motion, it's not too late. You see the door, now take the stage and make it great. It's showing where we going. If you don't, well, now you know. Casual Pharaoh gonna help me kill this beat so we can own it. We can own it. Through the boat, we real as God. Start a war, we'll drop a mine. Got no mainstream on my playlist, only bumping this and rock. No one saw me coming once it hit, but now I gotta show it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the land of the lost. Now I am the lost poet.
Bro, I hear that, and I was just literally sitting here thinking to myself, "Oh, I got to go to that fucking hip hop festival in AZ in December, man, because I would love to see you perform that, man." And you were spitting on that one. I just love it, man. So yeah,
It was
that's
a
a
fun
great
fun
tune.
beat for sure. It was a fun
Yeah.
beat. The guy who's on that song with me, Casual Pharaoh, he's one of my better friends, and one of my inspirations actually as well. And we both are working on a project right now called the Last Poets Society.
Right. Oh, wow.
And it's a little compilation album that we're putting together, kind of like how Yellow Wolf and Black Sheep, or Yellow Wolf and Caskey did their Black Sheep album, or their
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
theirs. We're doing one too. We're working on that, so it's about halfway done. No set release date yet, but this is like it's all poem, it's all poetry, it's all aggressive, it's all just sentimental poetry. Like, cause he's kind of the same way I am. He's a little bit more, he's a little bit more choppier than I am. He can flow pretty fast and pretty quick. But he's been doing this since he was like 11 years old. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's definitely one of my. So shout out Casual Pharaoh. He's one of my biggest inspirations and one of my best friends. So
Right on. Hey, well, bro, I really appreciate the insight on that one. Now, we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit because, like you said, that's upbeat. You're spitting this one. And I will tell you, bro, this is the one that I was kind of referring to earlier, where I'm literally working out in the gym. I'm kind of in between reps. I'm letting this whole album just play through, and I'm listening to the lyrics of this tune, and I started getting filled up, and I'm looking around, go, "Oh God, I hope nobody's seeing me."
was it on my verse? Because I had a handful of people. If it's a song I think you're talking about, I actually was able to somehow construct four people on one song and it
Oh
not
no,
be too much.
well, this one's called "Finding Me,"
Yep. Yeah.
and
There's four of us on there.
you got some girls on there too. I saw, right?
No.
What are the people's names that
So I
you
got
did?
I got Thera Jean. He's
Yeah,
actually coming out to do this sober show with me. He lives in San Diego. He'll
right.
be driving out here. Me and him have a lot of good music together. I have Endiru. He's actually
Okay,
out of Colorado Springs, and so is Troy Good. They're all really close friends of mine
okay,
from my come up.
right.
They're all just really really good solid dudes that are very 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 talented.
Okay, yeah, maybe I got confused. I saw the name Jean. I was thinking it was a female for some reason, but
Yeah, Thera Jean and I can see the confusion. They're all males.
yeah, well, this one, bro, it really hit home. I won't go into a long story, but the words "finding me," whatever that means to you, just really hit hard, man. It just goes to show how, you write lyrics for songs. And I like when artists will sometimes put their stuff out there and they'll say, okay, now it's yours, because, it means what it means to you when you write it. But then, as the listener, the consumer, if you will, we take those lyrics and we apply them to where we're at in our life or our life experiences or whatever it may be. At least I do, and
Yeah,
and
100%.
and this one hit home with me. So let's go ahead and play this clip from it, man. It's not a long clip, but let's go ahead and give it a listen.
Where do I belong? Fighting my way through this darkness. So lost and lonely on this road. So lost and lonely. Then you found me. And then you found me. Then you found me. Then you gave me hope.
Yeah, that's
That's
just
all
a
good.
sample, man. Then you found me and gave me hope, man. Talk to me about this song, Mac, if you would,
Funny
because I just love it,
funny
man.
story. Yeah, funny story about this song. So, I love the beat. I had no idea what I was gonna do with it, but I knew that it was gonna be part of the Lost Poet, just based off of when I was doing doing my album prep, and I was actually on the phone with Thera Jean, and I was like, all right, so I got one. I think I want you on. I said, let me find it real quick, and I was looking for a completely different beat, and I pulled this one up and I double clicked it, and it came up, and I was like, oh wait, this ain't it. But I'm like, well, hold on a second. I'm like, because he's really good at writing hooks. I'm not so great at writing hooks, in my opinion. I'm more of a verse writer, but I ended up
Okay.
saying, yeah, how about can you do something like this? Fighting my way through this darkness. And then, like, as soon as I did, he's like, bro, you just did the hook. And I was like, oh, well, that's just off the top. He's like, yeah, that's catchy. That's great. And so as soon as we got it implemented and done, he's on the back part of the hook. You can hear him behind me in the hook.
Right.
But
The
he's also on
mixing,
verse number
yeah.
two. Finding me is about, just being able to know that whatever you're doing with your life, if you aren't able to, if you aren't able to know where you're at, it doesn't matter if you're lost or not. If you don't know where you're at or who you are, it's kind of hard. So when you find yourself, when you find out where you are and find out what
Mm.
direction you're going, that's where you
Wow.
have the control of being able to make changes, and that's when you have the control to be able to, to be able to look inwards and make better decisions on your life, and also care about yourself a little bit more. So finding me was actually a follow-up to Echo. The song
Wow.
Echo from the Letters EP, where I was talking about the echo in my head, where I was just lost and everything. And then this is, yeah, everything. If anybody's listening takes a deep dive into my catalog, a lot of my songs reference each other. They almost
Yeah.
tie into each other, especially the album. The album actually ties into almost every song I've dropped. I mentioned something from almost every song, whether it's a title or a phrase reference or something, just because I like to weave it all together. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, you know what? I had it coming up, but I'm going to jump ahead. We have a clip from Echo. We actually played it on the show last week when we were kind of
Yep.
plugging you, but I saw you put this out there. So let's go ahead and listen to this clip. And there's actually a little short video with it, too. This is the song you just mentioned, Echo.
And I wanna shed some light and issues keeping me awake. I shaking and I hate it, yeah. Saying it's gonna be okay. We gotta believe it though, that no matter what we're facing, there's a light at the end of the tunnel waiting for us to show, to say that we made it through all the times of bending, but we didn't break it, do we? Nah. We're all on the same journey, just different paths, you know. Sometimes I feel the only friend I got in my head. I call him my echo. It's the echo inside. And I wanna shed some light.
Yeah, bro, I love it. So you saying that one kind of led into the
Finding me, yeah.
finding. Hmm.
Yeah, because I was lost with this.
Right.
This, the only comfort I had was this, like, was the the echo in my head, the thoughts, the doubts, the voices, the things that
Right.
led to substance abuse, that led to self harm, that led to ideations of attempted suicide, all sorts of things, man. So like when you find yourself, it helps steer you away from
Right.
those that cesspool of negative thoughts and negative. I mean, it'll never be completely gone. I mean, to this very day, even though I've made a lot of accomplishments and I've found my path, I'm still human and I still suffer from a lot of this mental health stuff, man. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like after dropping this album, like I am very pleased with, what I just put out, but I'm also feeling like I just gave such a big part of me out to the
Yeah.
world, and
Yeah.
I feel that there's just so much more that needs to be done. So like I'm already working on the next project, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not even gonna put any more into that, but I'll just like I want everyone to bask in the lost poet. But this is never ending for me.
Wow. Awesome, bro. Well, hey, that is the perfect segue into the last clip that I have of your music here. And we're going to go ahead and play it. This one's called Till My Last Day. Check it out.
No, I'm never gonna quit. Can you hear me now? When you hear that sound, nevertheless, you gotta give it your best no matter what, cause I stand for all of the reasons you gotta believe in. There's always a way to stand over top of your demons, giving yourself the upper hand of freedom. I know how it is, feel lost in the deep end, drowning. Spent a lot of time trying to find what's mine, Walking on ice, I was losing my mind, searching for clues to get back in line. These bumps and bruises, please don't confuse it. I've been at the bottom, you can hear it in the music. I know my calling, so I'ma give it all I got. Don't care about the hype, don't care about the top. Just wanna show it's possible to go and get it right. Spent so many nights all alone in my thoughts. It's the freedom I was seeking, breaking free from my demons, to believing in myself, to give myself a reason to believe when I say that I've been there too. I chose a better outlook to get me through, so here I am, I'm here to say, let's stand together until my last day. Till my last breath, till my last day, till my last goodbye, I'm here to stay.
Wow, bro. I got to tell you, man, what a great clip to kind of, bring this full circle on. I just love that tune, bro. That's what I say. It was hard to pick,
It's epic,
out
right?
of
It
all
sounds
of
like the
them.
ending to like a movie. It has like when I finished it, I was like, this could be played at like the end of like some movie where everything that was supposed to be all gone and lost was found, and like the sun comes out and there's hope and
Yeah.
people are, what I mean? Like that, I felt like it was a great wrap up to the album, to be
Yeah.
sort of the pretty much the last song, because the Made for More song is sort of a bonus track, but
Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations to you,
Thank
Mac,
you.
on such an awesome album and compilation, bro. And I just can't thank you enough for spending as much time as you did with us on the Dare Me podcast today. And I also wanted to get to your contact information. So here's your Insta page if anybody wants to go follow you. And holy cow, man, you got like 16,000 followers out there. And I'm sure that's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. The more you put out the kind of music you're putting out right now, bro. And then I also wanted to show this. I lifted this from your YouTube channel. Here's all the links and stuff. You
Hmm.
got your website out there, your Facebook fan page, your Insta. So congratulations again to you, Mac, and thank you so much for being on the show with us today. Really appreciate it, bro.
My pleasure. I appreciate you bringing me on and being able to talk. It's nice to feel heard, uh, and I appreciate everybody that takes time not to just listen to music, but you know to to try a little harder. Whatever you're facing in life, I just know that it's not too great to overcome. We're not here by accident, so.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, man, let's just put in a couple quick plugs. So, next weekend, you are going to be performing at the Sober Release Party in AZ. Tell us where that's at and what people need to do if they want to go out and check you out.
So it's a free event. It's hosted by my friend Blake Matthews, who's a big part of the sober community. Very, very talented individual, very, very good, humble person, God fearing and everything, as am I. But it'll be down at 4220 West Northern Avenue, which will be in Phoenix. It'll be at the Spot. It's called the Spot.
Yep.
And we'll have street tacos out there. So if you want some birria tacos, definitely come down and get some of that. I'll be there. There'll be mocktails, not cocktails. It'll be a sober event. The event is free as long as you're sober for, within the last 48 hours. And it's all just a respect thing for sure there too. Whether or not, if you want to come down and show support and you're not part of the sober community, but you want to come and show support, just at least if you're coming down, just be sober.
Yeah.
It's just because that's what the entirety of this event entails. It's gonna be a good time, man. I'm gonna be meeting some people I've never met before. This is my first time working with these artists, and he has me going on right before him. So my set will be from 9:30 p.m. till 10 p.m.
Wow.
And then this is his album release party. So yeah, looking forward to having whoever's in Arizona just coming down. Definitely come and check it out. We're gonna have fun.
Well, hey, bro, man, I'm sure that's going to be a great event. And then talk to us a little bit about the hip hop festival in December. Because man, I got to tell you, after even just playing them, I'm like, man, I got to go. So that was coming up. When is that again in December?
That's gonna be. I have to pull it up real quick. Give me 1 second. I
I
have
think it was December
looking out
9th
right
and 10th, I think it was.
Yeah, 9th and 10th, and it'll be down at I believe I think they're closing down a lot of the downtown streets. They're gonna have a bunch of outdoor. I don't have the full gist on it yet, but go follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, message me anybody that wants to know more information on that, and I'll definitely be able to get you as much information as I can get you. But this is another event that if you're able to come see, if anyone is able to come see, you definitely don't want to miss it. And also, I got tickets on hand that are not being charged. I'll go ahead and I'll just hand them out because it's about the difference, not about the money.
Wow, that is so cool of you, Mac. And you know what? I am going to try to make it out there. And hey, I don't mind calling in a favor every now and then, or name
Hmm.
dropping every. Maybe I can get a little VIP behind the stage, and maybe we can do an interview where we actually have you on camera at the hip hop
Yeah,
festival. That would be
that would be
really cool.
awesome. I love that.
All
I love
right.
that.
Well, hey, bro, I won't hold you hostage any longer. I just can't thank you enough for being the person you are, man. Like we talked about, being vulnerable, putting yourself out there, you know, just like that voicemail you incorporated into the song Sober, man. Just, it speaks volumes about the difference you are making out there in the community, man. And I just Godspeed to you, bro. Please keep doing what you're doing because you're an inspiration to me too. And you know what? I think you're saving people and you don't even realize it, man. And that voicemail that you put in that song definitely speaks to that. So I don't mean to keep flowering it up and going on and all that
No, you're
other
good,
shit,
man. I
man. But
appreciate
it's
it.
true, bro. You're making a difference, and I just appreciate it. So please keep doing you. All right, Mac.
Thank you. Yeah, I will. I will continue to do that, and we're gonna keep going until my last day.
Right on
This
till
is what
your
we're
last day. All right. Well, that is Connor Mack McAulay on the line and live on the Dare Me podcast, bro. I am, like I said, I'm just up like starstruck and so proud to have had you on the show. And again, I hope to have you on again down the road. Maybe we can meet up in December at that hip hop festival, bro. So have a great rest of the
100%.
night, Mac, and thank you again.
Thank you as well. Have a great night.
All right. Peace. Bye. Wow, how cool is that, y'all? We had Mac on the show. Dean, what do you think, man? Dean's been sitting there patiently back in Orlando. And thank you, by the way, Dean, for getting Mac back on the air with us so quick when we lost the phone connection
Yeah,
with
we
him.
we
What
we
a
lost signal, and he just dialed it too quickly. You know
Hey,
how
it
you if
happens,
you
man. Anything can happen
yeah,
live, you know.
that's
That's why we
fine.
gotta
No.
stay on our toes when we're doing it live. But what a great guy, right, man? Oh my God, such a cool
Mm-hmm.
dude and so talented, you know. Man, it's like I don't mean to, keep saying the same shit over and over, y'all, but it's like I couldn't resist sharing those DMs I got as a segue into his song Sober, where he played that voicemail, because I get the whole thing of feeling vulnerable about putting yourself out there the way he and I do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get DMs and voicemails like that, man, it's just you can't stop. Then it's just like, okay, we're making a difference. I can't stop now. I got to keep going, you know. So anyway, thanks again to Mac, bro. We appreciate you, and I really do hope to see you in person at that hip hop festival in AZ in December. So right now, y'all, we're gonna move on to the news and bring up our news header. There it is, the opioid crisis in the news. And this week, y'all, like I share on this show every week, there is such a shit ton of news stories out there every single week about this opioid crisis. We could sit here for 6, 8 hours just talking about all the stories. So I kind of try to cherry pick ones. And I thought, since we had Mac on the line from Arizona, that we'd do a couple stories from Arizona. And these first two that we're going to talk about are an interesting contrast, if you will, because this particular story is over a year old. You can see it was dated September 12th of 2022. It was from the PBS station there in the AZ area where I pulled this from. And it says this new report, that was new at the time, shows that the opioid deaths increased in AZ despite the state initiatives that they were doing there. Opioid overdose deaths increased 120% between 17 and 21, according to the Arizona Department of Health and Services, despite all these things that they were doing that are talked about in the article. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but you see at the top on the left there, it says more than 2,000 people died from opioids in Arizona the previous year. And that follows a 120% increase in 2017. I mean, do the math, y'all. Freaking crazy. And in the middle paragraph there on the right, it talks about all the shit they were doing, numerous initiatives, the Opioid Epidemic Act, the Good Samaritan Law changes, the Angel Initiative, uh, increase in dispensing Narcan, pharmacies cutting down on the prescriptions they'd write, all that stuff. And it wasn't making any fucking difference. And then guess what?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm not sure what happened. We lost our
Sorry.
sidekick.
I just kind of I
Uh,
got a little
I
ahead of
was on a
myself.
run too.
Yep.
Yeah, there we
I
go.
know you were. Well,
Okay.
I wanted to chime in too
Oh
because you
yeah,
said
go ahead. Go
I.
ahead.
You know what? I mean, I'd hate to miscommunicate their intentions. Meaning, you said it didn't make a difference. Well,
Well,
maybe it
you
did make a
wait till I get to the
difference.
next
Okay.
story. I don't
Oh,
mean to interrupt you, but that goes right to this, Dean, because I hear where what you're saying, and the reason I wanted to show both of these, and like I said, they're kind of contrast, is because I think what had happened was all the things we just talked about took a while to really begin to make a difference because this story, if you see, was from May of this year. And then it says AZ makes significant strides in the opioid crisis. And it talks about, how, and we can, I think, go to the next part of the story here. It talks about how it really did make a difference. And again, y'all, I don't want to read everything here to you, but it did make a significant difference. So do you follow what I'm saying, Dean? I just
Yeah.
think it took a while for it to take effect. And sometimes in the news, they'll jump the gun a little bit, and there was an increase. I mean, 2,000 people a year, died, and it just took a while for it to really take effect.
Yeah, it's just, numbers might still be growing, but maybe they'd be growing faster
Hmm.
if maybe so the numbers still seem to be increasing, but yet might have slowed the growth a little bit of the deaths of the just I'd want to encourage people to keep doing this.
Oh yeah, of course. And this article, what I'm showing y'all here is just a part of it. This is not the whole article. So I highly would encourage you, if this is something of interest to you, like it is to me, to go look this up. It's the Arizona Capital Times and read the whole article where it does describe. And we even cut off a little part at the top there just because, we're cropping photos to get them on the screen here. And it talks about the decrease in the number of deaths and the decrease in the
Mm-hmm.
number of ODs. So the point I was making is, yeah, Arizona kind of took it on the chin back in, 22, despite all the stuff that they're doing out there that it talks about again here in this middle paragraph on the right. I think it just took a while for it to all start to take hold and make a difference a year later. And I was happy to see, like you said, Dean, happy to see this headline that they're now making significant strides in combating the opioid crisis. And my hope, like I'm sure it is for everyone else, is now that a lot of these, dollars from all the settlements with big pharma and the different pharmacies are starting to get earmarked and distributed, we'll hopefully see even more of a difference get made. So moving along, y'all, we talk a lot about the opioid crisis here in California where I'm at, and we focus a lot on San Francisco because it is bad over there. And, we did a whole episode of me going to visit the Tenderloin, which again I'm not going to get into a whole story on that, but it was a fucking trip, y'all. Go back and watch the Back from the Dead episode of the Dare Me podcast, and it'll blow your mind. Boy, oh boy, I'm glad I survived going down there when I did and that whole thing. But the point I'm making is it ain't just California, y'all. Like I said, you can look online and find stories about this stuff going on every city, every state across the United States, and other places around the world. I thought we'd show this story, though, because this was from USA Today. And you can see it's just last week. It was dated October 8th. And the headline there is targeting what they're calling the last frontier. These Mexican cartels are now trying to send drugs into Alaska, which I'm quite certain they're already there. Not trying to send them there, sending more there would be a better way to put it, upping the death toll. And again, this USA Today, y'all, we don't, we're not biased toward any publication. They're all covering this story. And you can see it says the infamous Sinaloa cartel, once headed by the kingpin El Chapo. Everybody's heard of El Chapo, and we talked about him last week. He may be in prison, but they're saying his sons are still running the organization, are working on getting more dope into Alaska. And again, y'all, here is more details of the story. And it says that in 2021, the year that they have the most recent stats for, about 76% of the 253 fatal ODs in Alaska were involving synthetic narcotics, opioids, including fentanyl. And so, yeah, man, it's even up in Alaska, y'all. And then going further north into Canada, a Montreal paramedic offers an up close look at the city's drug overdose problem. And, being honest, y'all, this was a story I just stumbled on while I was researching opioid crisis news online. And sure enough, man, it came up. And the point I'm making again, y'all, that you can see this story is just from October 7th. It's everywhere, everywhere. So when we talk about the things like what we talked about with Mack, the DM I get that might even have helped just that one person, got him into treatment, that voicemail that Mack got that he incorporated into the song. This is how we're going to make a difference, y'all, because it's everywhere. And I just don't even know if it's, something that can be stopped. Things can obviously be done, like what we talked about with those two, contradicting or not contradicting, but two stories from Arizona, where, one year it wasn't making any difference. A year later, all the efforts were making a difference. But I don't think there's any one thing that we could do to make it all go away. We wish it was that easy, that there was some silver bullet, some pixie dust we could sprinkle over this problem and make it go away. That's not how it's going to happen, y'all. It's everywhere. California, Arizona, Alaska, Montreal. We've talked about it in Detroit and Florida and Miami and the UK and Greece and Italy. We've talked about all these places all around the world where this fentanyl and opioid thing is killing people at record numbers. And so the way we're going to make a difference, I think, is by continuing all the initiatives that, we talked about they're doing there in Arizona, but also even just trying to save one person at a time, like the kinds of stuff Mack's doing with his music and that we're hopefully doing, with this podcast. But so anyway, y'all, just kind of get down off of that soapbox for a minute, but thought I'd share that, hey, man, even our friends and neighbors up in Canada and Montreal dealing with this whole thing. And so if this is a story that catches your interest, you can go and read about that one here, is a little more information about it. In August, just a couple of months ago, the Montreal Public Health Department reported that 75% of the 175 fatal ODs that occurred from August 22 to July 23, that 1 year period, took place at home, which I thought was interesting. And it also, went on to say that it doesn't discriminate when it comes to age either. And, the whole story just goes into more detail about it, y'all. But it's everywhere. And then I thought we'd bring the news kind of full circle as far as different locations go, right back to my backyard, because I do talk about all these other places all around the country and other parts of the world. But look at this. Right here where I live in the Sacramento area, Roseville is literally 10 minutes up I 80, the freeway from where I live. And this poor girl, Roseville girl's family at fentanyl murder hearing. This man is inhumane and dangerous. And what had happened was this guy um, sold fentanyl laced drug to this poor girl's 15-year-old daughter, and it killed her. And he was charged and convicted with supplying, the girl with the fentanyl, and she died right in her bedroom, kind of like what it just talked about in that story in Montreal. People are dying at home because they get this dope and then they take it at home and die. She died right in her own bed. And just this past Tuesday, y'all, this guy who sold her the dope was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for his part in that. And, goes on to talk about it. But, if you're one of them people that is using opiates, sometimes I know how it is, man. You get caught up in dope dealing. You never wanted to become a drug dealer. Sometimes you do, though, to help offset the expense of your habit. And the next thing you know, not only are you a using addict, but you're a drug dealer too. This story right here, all the more reason to get clean, because if the dope don't kill you, as the saying goes, sometimes the lifestyle will. And this guy's life is over. He's going to prison for 15 years to life for trying to make some money off selling this poor 15-year-old girl fentanyl laced dope that killed her. So yeah, one more reason to get clean. And you know what? If you really want to get clean, you're still with us watching, listening to the show, you can do it. If I can get clean, anybody can get clean. So, anyway, y'all, here's another story that I couldn't resist showing on the show today. Being that it's football Sunday, and by the way, I put some stuff out there on social media that we were going to have a little something fun for all those Detroit Lion fans out there like me. I do know we have viewers and listeners from the Michigan and Metro Detroit area to the show. And if you know your old pal Glenn Victor, you know that that's where I grew up. And I'm a huge Detroit Lions fan. They are my football team, and they are the team to watch this year. So we're going to have that coming up in a little bit. But first of all, I thought this was a good segue into that, and certainly relates to our show, Emmitt Smith. And if you don't know who Emmitt Smith is, you are clearly not a football fan. Probably, if not the one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game of football. He played for the Dallas Cowboys, not my favorite team by any stretch. Well, Cowboy fans, but Emmitt Smith undeniably was, clearly one of the best running backs to ever play the game. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and so on and so forth. Anyway, he has jumped on board and joined this campaign that we're on with this podcast to raise awareness about the rising number of opioid overdose deaths across the United States. And I came across this story, y'all, and I just had to show it on the program. And we also have a short video. This video is 3 minutes long, so please bear with us, but we're going to play it, and then we'll talk about it briefly. Here is Pro Football Hall of Fame running back Emmitt Smith talking about the opioid crisis. Check it out.
Football Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith has seen the impact of the opioid crisis firsthand. It's something that's devastating the country, including Colorado, where the number of opioid overdose deaths increased by 54% in 2020. And that's why he has joined the Ready to Rescue campaign, and he joins us here on 9 News Mornings to talk more about the mission. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You got the memo on the dress code today, huh?
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me about the Ready to Rescue mission and what it's all about.
The Ready to Rescue mission is about bringing awareness to opioid overdose and opioid addiction. I've had personal experience myself with some family members as well, having to deal with opioid addiction or overdoses. And now I'm getting trained in terms of how to manage those situations and be ready just in case something happened and you walk in and you see someone laying on the ground, they lifeless or breathless, and you have an opportunity to actually utilize the Narcan spray to actually hopefully revive them.
Yeah, and that's why you're an ambassador for Narcan as well.
That is why I am an ambassador, because of personal experience, even former teammates and so forth. No one wants to lose a loved one, and no one knows when your opportunity to step up and be a hero can actually happen. And so if you're prepared, that's what Ready to Campaign is all about, being prepared for whatever, whenever, and however you can show up.
The Ready to Rescue mission is so important because we're just seeing insane numbers come out about opioid overdose and deaths. It's very scary. So this is changing the stigma, and it's also saying be prepared if you see something. And we know that Narcan can be administered even if you're not sure what it is, just in case.
Correct. It can be, and if you find yourself in a situation where you don't know whether it's in the home or whether you're at a fraternity party or whether you're at a football game or something of that nature, which we could be anywhere, and see someone lifeless or breathless, there's an opportunity for you as an individual or us as a community to step up and be of assistance. So make sure that you either know where your Narcan spray is at, or make sure that you understand that the family may know where everything is at, and you have something on you at all times.
And there's so many ways that you can get Narcan for free these days too, which is so wonderful, or discounted as well. You're going to the CU game today.
That is correct.
People can meet you, talk about this at the tailgate, right?
Yes, they can.
Right.
We have a fan fest going on today, sometime between 5 and 8.
Okay.
And we'll be out, so come on out, hang out with your boy, and take a photo, and we can give you some more information. If you want more information on Narcan, you can go to Narcan.com and get more information on all of the things that we're doing.
Come out to the game, meet a legend. It's so great. Your son plays for Stanford, I understand. Who are you rooting for today?
Of course I'm rooting for Stanford. I'm rooting for Stanford all day, no doubt. But I love Dion, though. I mean, I love Dion, but I got to root for my kids.
Totally.
So it is what it is. But I just pray that, Stanford put up a good fight.
Yeah.
And you never know what might happen.
It's going to be a good game. Well, I'm so glad that you're tying your name to a really important cause. Yes. And again, how can people learn more about the Ready mission as well?
You can go to Narcan.com and get all the information on the Ready to Rescue mission.
Awesome. Emmett Smith, thank you so much for coming in.
Appreciate
nice to meet you in person.
How cool is that, y'all? Emmett Smith, my man. And I'll tell you what, we need to try to reach Emmett and see if we can get him to be a guest on the show. I just think it is so awesome that Pro Football Hall of Fame running back from the Dallas Cowboys, Emmett Smith, is an ambassador for this whole problem of the opioid crisis. Rock on, Emmett, man. That is so cool. And, he talked a lot about Narcan and what a lifesaver it is. And he gave some resources on there. And I'd like to give a plug to one of our previous episodes. It was called the Recovery Happens edition of the Dare Me podcast. I think it was 4 episodes ago, where we went to an event here in Sacramento called Recovery Happens, and there's a segment on there where we actually have a guy conducting Narcan training right on the Dare Me podcast show. He goes right through the whole thing. So if you are interested how to administer Narcan, we have a demonstration right on the Recovery Happens edition of the Dare Me podcast. We also, on that edition of the show, provide several resources where you can get Narcan for free. It is available over the counter. However, it does cost about $50 for a 2-pack. And so we want to provide as much information and resources to people to get Narcan, and you can get it for free. And certainly, if you're a person that, even as Mack shared earlier in, his information about that letters compilation he did, where he was out there using, man, and he knew he was screwing up, but he had these concerns like, damn, man, this could end up killing me, man. I'm gonna, and so the point I'm making, y'all, when I talk about that is, if you're a person like I was too, trying to get clean, but couldn't quite seem to do it, keep some Narcan on hand in case you do OD, in case you do get a hold of some bullshit pills till you can get clean. Have the Narcan handy and available. And certainly if you're a friend, a loved one, an employer, a colleague of someone that you either know or suspect may be using opiates, keep that shit on hand. Like we said on previous episodes of this show, the way it is right now, Narcan really ought to be available just like fire extinguishers are in any building, because that's how bad this problem has gotten, y'all. It ain't getting better. It just keeps getting worse. And as we've already talked about on this show, it's everywhere. So shout out again to that boy, Emmett Smith. You rock, brother. And yeah, man, Dean, I'll tell you, that's another area where I talk a lot on this show about how, man, I'd love to have a full-time marketing person, and, get us, some kind of a publicist to reach out to some of these people a little more than I'm able to. I do my part. There's several people I'm trying to get on this show, and we're going to get some on. Believe me, we will. We're making progress, but man, love to have Emmett Smith on to give us a shout out or a plug for the show, or just come on and talk to us about it a little bit. So anyway, y'all, moving along, let's go. Since we're talking about football, oh, and by the way, there he is. I meant to show this. That's Emmett during his playing days. You can tell from the video. He's a little bit older now, but man, I'll tell you what, he was a force to be reckoned with. But now we're going to transition into my favorite football team, the Detroit Lions. And I posted this pic today because their colors are blue and white. They call this Honolulu Blue. And I must confess, y'all, I have now drank the Kool-Aid. That's the joke, with the Detroit Lions is, man, every year they get your hopes up high and they dangle that carrot and they play real good and then they end up collapsing and break your heart. But this year, man, all the analysts and the so-called experts on all the sports shows and sports channels and all are picking the Lions to make the playoffs at the very least. Once you get there, anything can happen, like they say, on any given Sunday or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, the Detroit Lions are a great football team this year. They are now 5-1, tied with five other teams for the best record in the NFL. There's no undefeated teams anymore after today, but there are five that are 5-1, and the Detroit Lions are one of them, and they're in first place in their division. And so, yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid, and I've been on that Lions bandwagon since I was a little kid, since I could walk. It's like, man, I'll tell you, I call them the new before I die team. Used to be the Chicago Cubs baseball team, and then they ended up winning the World Series. But the Lions have never been to the Super Bowl. They won the championship back in the 50s, but that was before it was even called the Super Bowl. So they're the one team that hasn't been, and we're hoping maybe, just maybe, they might get there this year. And so, anyways, today the Detroit Lions played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team from my old stomping grounds where I lived for 30 years in Central Florida. And I have some friends back there that every time the Lions would play the Bucks, I'd be rooting for the Lions against, my new, hometown, so to speak, even though I lived in the Orlando area, Tampa, Central Florida. So everybody I knew around there rooted for the Bucks, and I would always root against the Bucks for the Lions. It was a good friendly rivalry. We always had a lot of fun with. One of my old friends, shout out Marvin. I know he's a big Bucks fan, and man, they took it on the chin today. Because the Lions beat them, and they actually played in the Ray J in Tampa, their football stadium there, and the Lions took it to them. I think the final score was 20-6, and I was watching, most of that game on the Red Zone, earlier today while I was working on this show. So shout out to the Lions, but. Here's the fun thing, the little something something I said we'd do for all our Detroit Lions fans. And I usually post this at least once a year on my social media, because usually the Lions will lose when they play the Tampa Bay Bucks, but not today, and not the day of this video I'm about to play. I'll give you just a brief introduction. This video I'm about to show is 23 years old. Oh my God, I can hardly believe it. Where does the time go? This does not seem like 23 years ago, y'all. Maybe like a couple years, but it sure don't seem that long. Anyhow, in a previous life, as some of my followers know, I worked in the news media. That was one of my careers. I worked in for 25 years. Radio, television, blah, blah, blah. And for a couple of years of my career, I worked at a television station in Orlando, the CBS affiliate, WKMG Channel 6 in Orlando. and I was a traffic reporter there, and I worked on the morning show for a couple of years, and I was right up there on camera and up at the desk with the rest of the anchors and weather person. And so the weather girl that was working the show on this particular week, her name is Michelle Cimino, and she was a big Bucks fan. And so on that show, we used to keep a pretty loose format for a morning news show, which most morning television news shows are, especially seems like the Fox affiliates and that whole Daily Buzz kind of vibe on the CW or whatever the hell. If breaking news, came up, we all got serious real quick, but the news director was totally cool with us having, this really loose format. And so, man, they used to mess with me all the time because, obviously I'm a talker and I would, always be, talking a lot during the traffic breaks and banter and all that kind of stuff and doing bits. We did a lot of different stuff on that show, man. We would toss the football around in the studio. We do show and tell and just all kinds of different stuff. Well, so with all that said, me and Michelle, the weather girl, made a bet. The Lions were playing the Bucks on Thursday night football. And so the bet was that if the Lions won, she would have to wear a Lions t-shirt or jersey during one of her weather forecasts. If the Bucks won, I would have to wear one of the Bucks during a traffic report. And then the anchors, Ken McLeod and Jacqueline London, who were so awesome. I think Ken's up in Massachusetts at a Fox station there now, and Jacqueline's at the NBC station in Philadelphia. She's like huge there. Shout out Ken and Jacqueline, and of course Michelle, old colleagues of mine. Oh my God! Again, I can't believe it's been 23 years since this particular day that I'm about to show you on this video. So with that long lead into it, and an explanation of what you're about to see and the bet that Michelle and I made, let me show you who won the bet and what happened. This is a fun little video that's just a little short of 3 minutes long. Check it out.
All right, it is that time once again. Glenn said he stayed up late, watched the game all the way past midnight. Unfortunately, he did not oversleep. He is here to do the traffic, but mostly to gloat.
Well, I believe this is what James Brown called the big payback, right?
Oh.
Bucks beat the Lions the first game they played this year, but not last night. And I got to say, we'll see her in a moment here, but Michelle Cimino looks extraordinary. Up there we go. Looks extraordinarily nice this morning now, doesn't she?
Gray is your color, Michelle.
Yes.
Oh, no way. Definitely not a Detroit fan. Now I just really can't stand them.
Oh.
And they keep putting this up behind me. What's up with that? Traffic weather, and I've got a score behind me. Let me hide it.
Well, we all know now that the Bucks lost to the Lions, but it was a great game last night. It really was a defensive battle. Michelle's being a good sport here this morning. She's wearing the stylish Lions t-shirt, and all is well in the Motor City this morning. So there you go. Let's move on and take a look at the roads for you right now, everyone. We'll check things out through our DOT camera in Seminole County. I-4 up to speed through Lake Mary Boulevard. No problems there. We'll take a look in downtown. Check the SunTrust City Cam again at the 408. It's up to speed as well. Just starting to pick up there. Let's take a look at things eastbound on I-4 right around SeaWorld. See, it's a little bit busier there for those headed into downtown from the south side. And we'll check our traffic map for you right now, seeing the usual buildup southbound on 1792 through 434 and 436. And now the moment that all the big Lions fans have been waiting for, our morning weather forecast from Michelle Cimino wearing the Detroit Lions t-shirt. Here we go.
Really the bad part of this, Glenn, is that
the Bucks and Detroit have already met once. The Bucks won on that one. He should have to do something. But here I am in the Detroit Lions shirt. 68 degrees in Orlando. We've got 66 for Eustis, 63 up toward Ocala, laughing in the studio, 65 for Altamont Springs, and 66 into Castleberry. And I'm going now to a full screen to show you what the rest of your day is going to look like. Lots of clouds, just a little bit of sunshine, a slight chance of rain, 84 for the afternoon high. The next time you see me, I will not be in this T-shirt. And Ken McLeod is really not earning granny points with me right now.
I just wanted to sympathize with you. That's it. You know, I knew you felt bad over there by yourself, so.
Glenn is loving this way too much.
Glenn's out of control.
All right.
We'll be back.
This is painful, but we will be back.
Glenn's out of control. How about that? Did you get a kick out of that, Dean? You know, have you seen that video before? I think, you know, you may have seen that on my social media before. I don't know, but in any case.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. I've been posting it for 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, man, in a 25, 30 really plus career, because I worked in radio and TV in Detroit before I moved to Orlando, that was probably my favorite day of ever working on the air, man. I was in such a good mood, and I would have been devastated had the Lions lost. And anyway, I just always like showing that because it's funny to me, and I just think it's so cool that I was able to represent Motown in O-Town and do it live on television. And it was all in good fun. So again, shout out to Michelle again, all these years later, for being such a good sport. And of course to Ken and Jackie for playing along. So that's that, y'all. Moving along, we're going to go into some funny memes now, and just trying to get our slides back up on the screen. And I thought we'd show this one, being that we talked a little bit about music today, quite a bit about music with that boy Mack. And this is kind of a inside joke for people that work on music and podcasts, by the way. You'll be talking to a buddy and they'll say, "Hey, bro, what you up to?" "Oh, man, I went hard at it in the studio last night working on music or the podcast." And someone might say, "How was the studio sesh? Did you enjoy it? Bet you made a banger." And it shows the guy, he's like, his brain hurts, his back hurts, he got bloodshot eyes. You know, it ain't all it's cracked up to be, y'all. You know, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, I love it. And like we talked about, you know, with Mack, you got to have a passion for it, man. When you do music, you know, and even a podcast like this, you come into the studio and you got to lock in, man. You got to lock down. You know, it's sometimes it's like a time warp. You know, not to compare apples to oranges with doing music and a podcast, but you know, sometimes it's like I walk by this studio here at the crib so many times, and it's like I know as soon as I open that freaking door and walk in here, that's it. I'm gonna be in here for hours, you know. So I could relate to this slide, I guess is what I'm saying. We got one more funny meme, y'all. We're not gonna do a whole bunch of them tonight, just one more, and then we'll wrap the show up. This kind of ties into our show too, and I thought it was kind of cool. There's that boy Leo DiCaprio from that movie. With Wall Street, and you know, somebody made a meme out of this. This is where he's talking to those two feds on the ship there that time, and somebody wrote, "When you realize you're still crazy without drugs and alcohol," because if you remember in that movie, he got clean and sober near the end of it, and I'll never forget that one scene in the movie where he's drinking old Duels, you know, the alcohol-free beer, and oh God, what was that other actor in the movie's name? His partner, I always forget his name. He's like trying to explain to him that you don't get a buzz when you drink NA beers, you know. He's like, "What's the point?" But the thing of it is I could relate to this, you know, because you know, when you realize you're still a little crazy, even without drugs and alcohol, that's sometimes a pretty cool thing. It's good, you know, because you know, people sometimes when they're using for so long and they think about trying to get clean and sober, they think, man, that's going to be fucking boring. Life sure will be boring without all that, And it's like, it's not true. Life even becomes more exciting. We forget just how exciting it can be when we get caught in that rut. But the substance abuse, the addiction will trick our thinking, sabotage our thinking into thinking that we can't have any fun or be a little crazy even without all that. And like I often say, y'all, I might be crazy, but I ain't stupid. I'm a pretty sharp guy when I got my head on straight. But anyhow, y'all, I just thought this was a fun meme to show. Nothing wrong with being a little crazy, even when we're clean and sober. And so that brings us full circle, y'all, on the Dare Me podcast. Uh, we'll go ahead and wrap the show up. Want to thank that boy Mack again for being on with us today and being such an awesome guest. Man, I really do hope to go out and maybe meet him in person at that hip hop festival in Arizona, and then encourage anybody to go out and check that out. That's coming up December 9th and 10th. And go back and look at all the information on it that we had here in the podcast, or even look it up online. And can't encourage you enough to go to Mack's YouTube channel and do a deep dive into all his music, because it is awesome, y'all. It's very inspiring and just great music, and he is unique in his style, man. He's definitely a rapper and a hip-hop artist, but his style is unique, and it's great stuff. So anyway, shout out Mack. Thank you for being on the show. Dean, want to thank you again as well for being such a rock star and holding things down back in Orlando. I thought we had a pretty good show today, wouldn't you say?
We did as well, yes.
Yeah, well, hey,
Good
before
interview.
we wrap up, though, I was hoping, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was hoping we could take a second, and maybe you could talk a little bit, because I can't thank you enough for doing this, bro. I mentioned it briefly last week that we are now putting reels out there on the daily with clips from the show, a la Joe Rogan and the podcast he does. We kind of took their lead, not to copycat Joe Rogan, but we love what they do, and it's a proven formula. And so, Dean, you've been real busy with that this week, and I love the reels, man. They're just short excerpts from the show.
Yep.
Usually on a pretty intense topic, because we do get pretty intense on the show sometimes. And looking at the views we're getting, man, and they're great. So anyway, I mean, I kind of went on and on about it, but talk to us a little bit about these reels, bro.
I don't know. You said pretty much all there is to say. There's just more, more out there to reach more eyeballs, which is all we're trying to do. Just get more viewers.
Yes, thank you. Trying to get to more people, just like that DM we shared, y'all. And hey, you could see, man, that was legit. I just kind of, marked out the name to, respect somebody's confidentiality. But they told me, by all means, use that. If it might even help one person, pay it forward. And so, if we can get the word out a little bit more about this podcast by doing reels like that, putting excerpts from the show out there to get people's attention, to maybe drive them to the YouTube channel, hey, all the better. And so, Dean, I really appreciate you doing that. I do my reels, where I put the logo and some music behind it. And, I took a couple of them and put them on TikTok, and I'm trying to do my part too, you know what I mean? But I just really appreciate you doing that, bro. And I appreciate the ownership that you have taken in this podcast and the pride. And I hope you get it and feel it, like I do, that we are making a difference, man. We are making a difference with what we're doing. So I just can't thank you enough. And I mean that sincerely, Dean. Thank you.
No problem.
Right on. Okay, well, y'all, hopefully you get to see some of those reels. If you're active on social media, they're out there, man. They're floating around on Facebook, Insta, YouTube, TikTok, all the things. And if you would, go to our YouTube channel, the Dare Me Podcast YouTube channel, and click subscribe, and then you'll actually even get notified anytime we post something new on there. So one of the spiffs of being a subscriber to the channel. If you're a person that that's struggling with substance abuse disorder, addiction, you're trying to get clean and sober, we hope that if you watch this show, that we've been at the very least even a little bit inspirational to you, provided some informational content, some entertaining content. And if you are a person that came across our show looking for information about how to get clean and sober, like I was when I was working on kicking dope, man, we really, really hope we've been an inspiration to you. And as I often like to say on this show, as we wrap it up, if you're going through hell, keep fucking going, man. Don't give up. Just keep going, and you will come out the other side. If I can do it, if Mack can do it, you can do it too, and get on with your life. And like we posted in that funny meme, life ain't boring in this clean and sober journey. I can promise you that. The sky is the limit. Like Mack said, he never thought in a million years he'd be living the life he is now, doing music now that he's clean. Here I am doing this podcast, which quite frankly, it's a lot of work, but it's so much fun and so rewarding when we get messages like the one we showed on here today. So, yeah, the sky's the limit, man, when you start living your life clean and sober and you dig yourself out of that hole of addiction, that horror of addiction. So, we hope that we might have made a difference in someone's life again on this show today. So, yeah, I think I've talked myself out of that closing. It's like this whole show, if you haven't figured it out yet, y'all, nothing is rehearsed, nothing is scripted. It's all shoot from the hip and from the heart, y'all. And I just kind of ordinarily, we have structure and an outline and all, but we just kind of go till we run out of gas. And I think we brought it full circle and did a pretty good show today. So, with all that said, thanks again, Dean. Thanks again, Mack, for being a guest. And thank all of you for watching and listening. Hope you have a safe week. We'll be back next Sunday. Have a great week, y'all. And thanks for watching the Dare Me podcast.
Good night, everyone.